Hi, my name's Penny. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about some binge-worthy series. Now this is a monthly recommendations group prompt, so I will leave the details of that group down below if you're interested. So because I'm used to doing top 5 videos, I've got 5 recommendations here, and I'll talk about them from the least binge-worthy to the most binge-worthy. So number 5 is the Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson. So that's a fantasy trilogy that includes Kiss of Deception, The Heart of Betrayal, and The Beauty of Darkness. And the reason I had to include this on my list was because last month I did binge read this series. As soon as I read the first one, I just couldn't stop myself. I had to know what happened next, and then I thought, well, I may as well finish the trilogy. Now, the first book of this trilogy has a really interesting setup. You follow this princess who has been betrothed to a man she's never met. She's really not into the idea, so she decides to run away instead. And she ends up with both the prince and an assassin on her trail. Then when she eventually meets up with these two men, it's done in such a way that you don't know which of the two men is the prince and which one's the assassin, and you spend most of the book wondering which way that's going to go. And then by the end of the first book, all the characters are in such awful situations that you have to keep reading to find out what's going to happen. I was really glad that I read this trilogy all in one go, because I think if I'd left the later books till later, I wouldn't have enjoyed them as much. But as it is, I did, and so of course I would recommend this series. So the next series I would recommend would be the Binti series by Nnedi Okorafor. This is another series that I read over the last couple of months, and I almost wish I'd read them closer together, even though already I read them very close together. Each book is a really short story, and they really do make up a whole single story, especially the last 2 books are essentially the same story, so it doesn't make that much sense to split it up, and I think if you read them apart you won't enjoy them as much. But as a whole experience, I did really enjoy Binti. Binti is set on a future Earth. It basically follows this African woman who wants to go study at a university on another planet. However, her people don't tend to leave the Earth. So by going to this university, she has to deal with judgment from her family for leaving the planet, which isn't something they find acceptable, and also a lot of people who don't really understand her people and their customs. I thought this was a really weird and creative sci-fi story. There's so much more to this story that I can't really tell you because it's spoilers, but it's such a short series that really you should just sit down and read the whole thing. Then for number 3, I'm going to recommend The Wolf by Wolf duology by Graudin. A duology still counts as a series, right? Yes. This is set in an alternate history where the Nazis won the war, and so the Nazis and Japan are now leading the world. And every year they have a motorcycle race. And at the end of the race, whoever wins gets to meet Hitler. So this girl, Yale, has decided to enter the race. And at the end of the race, when she gets to meet Hitler, she plans to kill him. And honestly, I can't imagine anybody reading this first book and not immediately wanting to read the second book. In fact, I'm pretty sure that when this book first came out and people read it, they were like, oh my god, I can't believe I have to wait to find out what happens next, because that ending. I also felt quite an emotional attachment to Yale. She is a Jewish girl, so obviously in a Nazi-run Germany, she's had some troubling times, and I think that's dealt with really well in this book. And as well, this book is very fast-paced. Second book, not quite as fast-paced, but still it keeps moving in a way that makes it just really easy to read both these books in no time at all. The second to last binge-worthy series that I am going to recommend would be Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. So this is another series that I did binge read. Just before the Netflix series was coming out, I knew that I wanted to read the books before I watched the TV show, so I set about reading all 13 books. They are middle grade books, so they're very quick to get through. I think I read the whole series in about a month and a half, maybe less. Got through them very quickly. thoroughly enjoyed them. I actually would really like to read them again, maybe before the next season of the Netflix series comes out. So the series follows 3 orphans, the Baudelaires, whose parents have died in a fire, and they keep getting shipped off to different relatives to take care of them, but through that they discover that perhaps their parents' death wasn't all that it seems, and that there's a whole lot of other strange, mysterious stuff going on. They also have one of their relatives trying to kill them pretty much in every book. And throughout the book, you slowly come to understand what's really going on and unravel the mystery. And I think because every book the Baudelaires are put in another awful situation that you always know is going to end up badly, you just can't stop reading it to see how it will go badly, but also what good things will happen along the way and what we'll learn. Obviously, I had an external deadline when I was binging the series, but I do think I would have read it fast regardless because it was such a great series. The other key feature of this series is the wordplay. It has such a fun writing style that really uses words in a very different way. And it's just such a fun read. Like, why wouldn't you binge that series? So then the last binge-worthy series I'm going to recommend is actually a series that I haven't quite finished. However, I did just read the 5th volume, and that is the Locke and Key series. I have the 5th and the 6th volume here because I just finished the 5th book and I'm reading the 6th book. So yeah, it's true, I haven't actually finished this series yet, so that might seem like I shouldn't be able to recommend it as a binge-worthy series. However, I finished this volume last night and I am so hyped to read this one, and after I read the 4th volume I felt the same way about reading the 5th volume. And I also think that once I finish reading this, I'm going to get my own copies of the whole series and I'm going to reread the whole series again, like really quickly, because I do think even though I've only read this over 3 or 4 months, there's definitely things from the first book that I have forgotten, and I think it would have been better just to like binge it and read it all in one go. So this series is a graphic novel series. I'll show you some pages, although I can't look. Editing Penny, don't look. Like, let's look at some pages. I think it's really cool. There's some really cool creatures. I won't find them. So this series follows some children who have to move back to the historical family home after some traumatic events. And then they start finding all these different keys. And each of the keys has a different magical power. So in the back here, oh, there isn't one in the back of that book. So in the back of the 5th volume is a good example. There is like a guide to the different keys that you have and the different powers that they have. So the ghost key, you get to go through a door and turn into a ghost. The echo key lets you bring back people from your memory, essentially. I think the anywhere key lets you go through any door to anywhere. The head key lets you open up people's heads and see their memories and take things out and put things in. The gender key lets you go through a door and change gender. There's just so many cool keys like that. That's only the beginning. Look at all the keys. I love this series, and the stuff that got revealed in book 5 just sets things up so well for an amazing finale. I know that tonight I'm going to want to stay up all night and finish this, but it's too long to read in one night. Oh, not when you have work in the morning. So I won't be able to, but honestly, I'm so excited about reading this book. So I would definitely recommend this as a binge-worthy series. So let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned today. Would you consider them binge-worthy? Or otherwise, what are some binge-worthy series that you would like to recommend to me, especially given that those are some books that I enjoy? So I hope to talk to you down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Blah, 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 blah.